Hi everyone, it's Adrian Leah. I'm in a different area of my house because the AC isn't working right now. It has to de-thaw. So I'm near the door where there's a breeze. I hope this is an okay angle. I know it's a little high, but I get decent lighting from the lamp. This is also one of the brighter areas of the house too. So for this video, I wanted to continue doing my review on the Japanese Myth Tarot. These are the backs. I did separate some of the cards for the review. And I was thinking whether I wanted to talk about the sword suit or the cup suit. So mainly for the sword suit, I wanted to do it in an order that I associate with the elements in the court cards, but I may do the cups. I think that this deck has strong elemental associations. I know earlier when I was a little warmer, I was thinking about the sword suit because I was craving air, but now that I'm next to the window and I have an ice pack next to me, I feel more content and I'm thinking about doing the cup suit too. So last video I could only fit one suit in the video, so that'll probably happen in this one. I also have been reading with this one more and more, and I do feel like there's a close connection with the spiritual beings, as I mentioned earlier, directly having communication, and life path, divine guidance, those type of readings that can correlate with different areas in your life. Like you can do this for what you would like to do in the future, even relationship readings. So I'm going to talk about the cup suit today, and I didn't show in my other video, but in the world card there's the celestial beings at the top, and those beings on the side of the centered one are also on the aces and the minor arcana suits. So this Ace of Cups is on the right side for me. And I have addressed the only misprint on the world card, but I dismiss it because this is a foreign deck, and I heard that there was a reprint where the world card was corrected. I also talked about it maybe being a bootleg deck, because there is a different version of this where there's black borders. But even in Japan they are selling this copy too, because I saw the pictures that they were showing. So with the cup suit, you usually, well, in the aces you usually see the being off to the side and they're holding something that associates with the suit. So this one, you can see it's overflowing with water. This reminds me of, well, I also dubbed this my Inuyasha deck, so I'm just checking my time, because it is placed in the feudal era of Japan, the show and the books too. So there's this character Shippo, and he does fox magic because he's a fox demon. And just to note, to also say what I said in the other video, that when they talk about different demons that are in the show, they do tend to have varying personalities. Some might be more sinister than others, but the character Shippo is a baby fox that got abandoned. Well, his father was killed by other demons, but he's still growing up and he's more on the innocent side. But he has one thing that he pulls out, because there's a lot of allusion towards to his magic, or nothing is as it seems. And there's the spinning top that he has that's also reminds me of this. It also looks disc-like, or if you were to put a bird bath in your yard. And that's one of my cats. So on the bottom you can see that there's a body of water here. It could be overflowing, and that's why there's a bit of pooling there, or it could be a large body of water, but you can see closely that there's also lily pads there too. And there's a directness to this one with her facial expression, and you can see that there's a dove with the earth cross too. This could also be a fairy cross that it reminds me of, but it really reminds me of the specific symbol that I mentioned earlier. And it looks more ethereal because she's not holding the object, but it's more lifted above her hands. And it looks like energy coming in, or it's forming as if it were shape-shifting too, which makes sense with the element of water because it can take form of what its vessel is. And it also has clouds in this card too, as it does with the other suits that have clouds. And I'll just show an example because I have the swords off to the side too. And you can see the traditional hairstyles in this one. This one looks more like a rabbit to me, which you'll see more on this one. And next to this being, there's the one that's on the wands. And this one's earth, and this being is on the sword suit. And there is a correlation with it having more of an earthy humanness from the sword suit, which I like because there's a bit of green there. And I'll show this one quickly just to talk about it. And I do mention in some of my videos about the human pursuit and the zodiac signs that have the element of air, or mainly associate with the element of air, that they're signs that don't have humans in them. So I feel like I'm gravitating towards the sword suit too, so maybe I'll do both in this video. But there is a storyline that I'd like to address, so maybe I'll talk about both of them. So in the Two of Cups, you see these two beings. And what's nice about the minor arcana is that they have stories. So these beings you're going to see in other ones. And there is a connection. You can see that there's a snake at the top and it's winged. So there does seem to be something that relates to differences but coming together. And also it could be a transformation, or even together with these a transfiguration of physically changing. There is maybe in a reading some hesitant reaction to this, and then a forceful reaction from the other being here. And you can see the red is mainly on the male figure in the card. And then the female, she has colors that remind me of maybe a watermelon with greens and pink, even though it would be more on the red side. But there is exposure here too. So if there's exposure with the Two of Cups, maybe the motives are more identified instead of hidden. And then there's also an opening here, so this could be more of an opportunity and a clear sky. But the ground is bare, so there might be some growth. But there is more of a innocence with the female figure here. And then maybe more of a confidence coming from the male figure. Not saying that she isn't, but based on the expression on what the unspoken conversation is. So he still has a cape, and then she has a veil. And then she has her ornate kimono, and it looks like he has some military experience or samurai experience. And then it looks like he could be holding one of the symbols for the cups. So there is a repeat with the beings in this card too. You could see that the woman from the Two of Cups is in this card too. And this is reminiscent of a veil. But the skies are a little murkier, not too much, but you can see that there's a direct conversation to the other figure that could be the father, and then the pools of cups surrounding. This being also shows up in the Six of Cups, so this could be a maternal figure for her too. And she has what looks like a padding on the side. And she also has a stripe of gray coming down. So she is turned around, and she doesn't show her face in any of the cards that she's on. So it would just be assuming that she's the mother, but she can also be somebody else too. So there could be a plotting type of reading that you may have when you have this card. But it looks like they're sitting on concrete. And this definitely feels more of a coming together communal type of card, as it is with the traditional cup suit. But I would like to say that a lot of times when I read it, a Three of Cups card, I want to see if the conversation is more authentic, or is it something where they're gossiping about somebody else, or they're not being as authentic as they're putting out to be. But there's the third cup symbol there too. And in this picture, she doesn't have her veil shawl. So it could be that she'll get her answers in the Three of Cups when she wasn't sure in the Two of Cups. So another repeating figure is the Four of Cups, who is the figure in the Two of Cups, other figure, and then there's somebody else. And there isn't a too upset reaction, but with the Four of Cups, there may be some type of where if they might have to give an offering to the other family or some type of dowry. Or there's some type of presentation here. And sometimes with the Four of Cups, you're given something that maybe you might not expect or you don't want. But given the situation, and with a spiritual reading, a lot of times it's something that you might want to look into because it could have more meaning to it than you expect. But on the other side of his cape, you could see that there's a sun there, or some type of shoulder blade, because it has some sharpness to it that looks like a sun. And also the coloring that's also in the Two of Cups is black and white. And this could be a different season compared to the other cards, but it doesn't give too much indication of what season there is in the other cards. But in Japan, there is what they say is the cherry blossom season, which I feel like was recent, where they make a lot of products out of the cherry blossoms and have festivals. So that's what I think that could be going on here with a different season. But it looks like there's also the Three of Cups here, the symbol for the Three of Cups, but there's also this one here too. So it could be that he has it, but then he's presented something else, or he doesn't have it and he's presenting something else, or he's gonna get all these things. But this figure isn't in the other cards, but it does remind me of a Pentacles figure that had a similar hairstyle in that suit. So the person is also wearing green and has some blue on their sleeves. So it could be something to consider if you're going by color too. But in here you can see that there's a rock. So the Five of Cups has the being that's in the Three of Cups again. And this is gray backgrounds that reflects off of what they're sitting on too. There's also a stream here. And you can see that some of the cup symbols are broken. But interestingly, she has gloves on. So what the motive is uncertain. But if you see this in a reading, it will be something that you might want to look into. And there's also a bridge. So this could be a bridge going into the different world or the spirit world. And it could also mean that since there's a house, there's a connection to someone or something. At the bottom you can see on her clothing that there's a heron. What looks like Lotus is next to the heron too. And these colors remind me of the being in the Two and Three of Cups, because she has the colors there too. So it's behind her. This could be protecting. but this could also be self-reflection too. But there's a reflection or an examination that seems to be linked to how she's positioned. And it's interesting because all the cards that she's on, she's not faced forward and you can't see her face. And this reminds me of one of the lures that was in the show, and it was so they were luring one of the characters in, and the character's mother died, but there was a close connection with that character and their mother, and so he was tricked into believing that they resurrected his mother and they were holding him captive. But it turns out that once the being got linked with the character, then the person eventually found out that it was this spirit that wanted to, it was a caring mother who lost her child in war. So it was a mourning mother. But in the end, just to tell you that even though the person was mad at the spirit, once the character got attacked by the person that told that the mother spirit what to do, then the mother ended up protecting the character in the end, and it was like a maternal bond, even though it wasn't her son. So that's what it reminds me of too. So again, in the Six of Cups, she's in here. And there's the house that you see, that it could be the house because there's an opening here, or it could be an archway into something. And the discs, the cup symbols are golden up here. So that can be some type of contentment, maybe association with wealth, and more of a structure here too. And there is a sense of pureness in the card. You can see that the figure in the Six of Cups has a similar coloration to the cherry blossoms, but she also had some pink in her kimono too. She has different hair. She doesn't have the strip of gray, and the stuff that she has in her hair here isn't there because they're exposed there instead. And you can see that the child has a dragonfly. So I don't think that she has an embodiment of the dragonfly, but I think the dragonfly in a way comes to her. So that could be given information, some type of given clarity. There's also the rainbow too. So this could be some type of, another perspective is being some type of illusion towards the messages if you're thinking about a rainbow scientifically, that it's seeing it at a certain angle and then you see the rainbow. But there's a darkness there too. And you can see in her hair there's a flower in there too. So that could give way to the lotus or cherry blossom. It looks closer to the cherry blossom. And it looks like maybe it's holding food, or it could also be holding like one of the spinning tops that look like what that is in the Ace of Cups, or a structure like that. So in this one, I feel like maybe she didn't have many choices because there was an influence on the maternal figure. But going into the Seven of Cups from the Six of Cups, this looks like a different stage where she's older, even older than the Two of Cups version. And there looks like the clouds could be fire. And there's also blue skies here too. Whereas before, she did have a bit of blue skies, but she was in front of the opening. Sorry, my dog is just waiting for me to finish. And then there's the part of her kimono that's part of the pattern, but it's placed differently. And the veil is gone, but she has her eyes closed, but her hairstyle is one like the Six of Cups. And then it's like the top of her kimono is opening. And again, with the spiritual nature of this deck, you can see the choices are so there's a skull, then there's the archway associated with going into a different realm. This looks like jewelry, a mask, a snake, this one reminds me of eggs. It might remind me of something different in another reading, but it looks like it has a nest. And the clouds look like they're clearing, but it also looks like stuff is burning too. But that reminds me of Foxfire, how That's one of the powers of the kitsune, and it can light up a path. It could also be protection. This might be burning away desires, or it could be narrowing down what you need to do, or being spiritually guided towards one of them, or even being able to get all of those desires in different stages and different ways. There's also yellow in the clouds too. So maybe with this figure, it could be that she's face behind because there could be some shame in the stuff that she did. Or maybe it's some type of maternal reaction where she's trying to protect. That could be the protecting figure trying to do something to protect her family, and it ended up not backfiring directly, but having repercussions where it could have been emotional discomfort. So you can see that there's the cups stacked up, and they kind of look like drums here, or seats, or stools. And you can see that this figure now is turned around. So now she could be faced with a choice that her mother went through. So it could also be that maybe her mother had a arranged marriage, and now she's making the choice to do something too. But there's exposure here, and then she's sitting in a tree at night, and there's the ribbon, the red ribbon, and she's in a cherry blossom tree. There's the blossoming, but it looks like it could be a different season because they aren't flourishing here, or maybe it's before when they're just starting to grow in. Her dress looks more pink than it has been in the last couple of cards, but there is still yellow, so there's the familiarity. But her hair's up again like it was in previous cards. So with the ribbon, it could be that she took off the ribbon, or it could be a binding type of ribbon. So, or she could be leaving it. But this says a lot, especially with the environment that she's in. You can see that there's the moon. And the way that the kimono flows, it reminds me of like a peacock. So I'm going to jump to the Queen of Cups and the King of Cups, and then go back to the Nine of Cups. Because it looks like the being that was in the Four of Cups may have something else to offer, because the hairstyle is reflected in the King of Cups. And you can see that the figure is here too, and with the children and the cup disc. but now her ground is, it has cherry blossoms with the ocean, but there's also the cliff, which reminds me of the Fool card too. And she has the branches that look like antlers, so it could be what she sits on. It is where she thrives. And there's her veil again, only it looks different from the Two of Cups. This one looks more fitted than this one. But she has a lot more cherry blossoms in her hair. And she looks like she has a smile on her face this time too. So I feel like she had children because of the other cards that I'm going to show you. But I feel like showing you these cards makes more sense. And the bottom looks see-through. You can see that her feet are there too. And I love the platform shoes that are in the deck. So you can see the calm expression on the King of Cups face, but there's a lot going on with the waves in the background and the gradient sky. So maybe he keeps certain emotions at bay too, but is overall level-headed. And he holds this staff that looks like it has prayers on it. And the pants are dark blue, and then there's green, and it has a direct cup symbol here too. There's also the blankness surrounding. So this could be a clear expression, is what I'm getting for this right now. But it could also be some turmoil that he's going through too, but being able to cope with it or not being able to cope with it, because there's also the bleakness of the background or the walls. But he's holding the prayers tightly. And this figure reflects the Three of Cups person, only it's not the same person. This one looks older, this one looks younger, so it's like she went with somebody that maybe reminded her of the father figure in this one. And maybe this could be one where he's now head of the family now, so he could be carrying, that's why he's carrying this and needing to be calm to have a high position. But even though he has a blank expression, I don't feel like it's a blank expression because of the Queen of Cups. I just think that there's a lot that the King of Cups goes through. And even with the ornate necklace. So going back to the Nine of Cups, which is also on the Page of Cups. I think it could be one of the children. Then this one. There were three. So, depending on a reading, maybe this could be the other child too. But I was thinking maybe it could be that they want to get married instead. But this could also be a caring sibling too. So, I love in the Nine of Cups, you can see, if maybe you can see in this video, that this is a fishing rod, and there's a really light casting hook where you can fish, and there's the glaciers. You can also see the glaciers and the Six of Swords. So I pulled up the Nine of Cups and the Six of Swords because they both have glacier images. They love the backgrounds, and it looks like a frozen river. So the Nine of Cups is a figure going. So with the Nine of Cups, it reflects the Three of Cups in a way, because where they're sitting, it looks like they're sitting on something that looks like this. And it's stairs that can indicate progress and working towards something that you would really like. So this could also be reflecting off of even the Two of Cups too, where she didn't end up with this person. Maybe it was something where she didn't want to, and that was the discussion here. But this could be a child of this person, because again of this picture. So with this, it could be patience and endurance. Also with the yellow background and the ground, there does seem to be a contentment in the expression on the figure's face too. And the rod being similar to a wand, and directing your energy towards this specific goal. And with it might not be what you're looking for, but it could be an openness on seeing what your path is and working towards your path and being more open-minded too. And as I mentioned, this could be like a future spouse, or it could be a sibling too, because of the 3 children that are depicted in the Queen of Cups. And then in the cups symbol, you can see that there's rainbows in here that connects to the Six of Cups. Because the Six of Cups had the rainbow. And there could be some Cancer element to this too. Because of the fishes that are on each side. And it looks like they could be underwater as well, because the fishes are there and it has the bubbles there too. So it could be going deep into the water. Maybe the figure waited till the water melted and that was the opportunity. But there's also a structure in the background, similar to having a structure in the Six of Cups, and the Five of Cups has the structure in the background. So it could be going back to that root. But there's also the pillars there too. And it looks a bit gated too. And the ground, there's a gaping here, and there's a red tone too, so that could be the steps. Because there's a structure in the Eight of Wands where there's a temple with stairs leading up to the temple. But it doesn't look like they're standing, it looks like they could be swimming or floating. But there seems to be contentment, so I think that this would be a good card to have. And in general, the Ten of Cups being a good card. But ultimately, any card can be a good card, depending on the perspective. So this figure is on the Page of Cups, and in here you have a dolphin with nothing on the hook. But then the intentional waves, the way that it's drawn out, with the blank floor or ground, it could be dirt, but there does seem to be a determined look on this figure's face. And with the gray background too. But there's an elegance to holding the fishing rod and the exposure too. So I'll go over this one last. So this one is the Knight of Cups. And this card, the figure on this card, reminds me of this figure, which is interesting. It could even be the figure, and it doesn't need to be a whole household. Maybe they don't even show the children in the suit, which is completely fine. This one has the dark blue at the bottom, which the King of Cups also has the more of a grayish blue, dark blue, but this one there's maybe like a navy blue. And you could see the stream there, but there is bareness here too. And holding the cup symbol, it looks like the horse is headbutting. The figure does seem to have a strained face or looking like needing to do something or something's on the mind. And there's a directness to the expression. And it kind of looks like the horse doesn't want to get involved in that conversation, because maybe it was a failed relationship, or if like they had some type of militant duty, it could be related to that too. But it's interesting how this figure that could be this figure is depicted on the Knight of Cups. Because with the Knight of Cups, it is sometimes a give and take of asking whether this is worth it, or how much dedication are you putting towards this goal that you have. And there's a white horse in the picture, which is also interesting for this card with blue skies. not as blue as the Two of Cups. This one looks a little gray, like an overcast. But maybe the Knight of Cups is getting up after being talked into doing something from the Four of Cups. So that was this suit. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you guys saw the cards well, because I did notice that the lighting was fluctuating a little. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.